All right, everyone, we are going to get started because we have a jam-packed session. So if you are in the back and want to be seated, please take your seats. Wow, the power of the microphone. Thank you all for joining us for the first ever Summit Solution Provider Showcase. There are several of these showcases running concurrently, so I hope that title there about on-farm food and loss is not a surprise to you. If it is, it means you're in the wrong place, but I would encourage you to stay because we have a lot of star power and it's going to be the best of the sessions. My name is Sam Buck. I'm going to be your host for this session, and I'm joined with Jeffrey Zarita. Jeffrey, can I? Oh, you're on it, waving. Now, if you ask folks at Refed what the favorite part of their job is, there's a pretty good chance that they're going to say it's working directly with solution providers. It really is like getting a glimpse into the future, and the passion of the founders and the folks working on these teams really does shine through. And so we wanted to find a way to bring some of that magic to the Summit stage. And that's what this showcase series is all about. So here's the format. We will be hearing from 3 food waste solution providers that offer solutions for reducing food loss and waste at the farm level through secondary market channels and technology. After each presentation, there's going to be a discussion with our gracious, amazing, incredible judges who are up here. And I'll introduce them. Yeah, give a wave. And a round of applause, please. A wave and a round of applause. So first we have, going back. Going forward. There we go. Monica McBride. Monica, if you could give another wave. Thank you. Monica is Bayer's Director of Global Partnerships for Environment and Landscapes, where she works to deepen Bayer's partnerships with major environment and nature-focused organizations, business coalitions, and thought leaders relevant to Bayer's crop sciences business. Prior to joining Bayer, Monica worked for World Wildlife Fund US, where she led strategic partnerships with multiple corporate partners and industry groups focused on developing measurement methodologies, butchered that one, and roadmaps for reducing food loss and waste, setting science-based targets, and improving the sustainability performance of their products. Thanks for all you do. And joining Monica is Lori Saligman, a climate tech investor with a focus on food systems. She is a managing partner of the Clean Energy Venture Group and a venture partner with the sister fund, Clean Energy Ventures. She's also active in the broader ecosystem, acting as a mentor with several accelerators and incubators, including CleanTech Open, Village Capital, and Launch Vermont. Thank you both for being here. Let's get another round of applause for these two. Now, once we've heard from all the presenters, we'll open the floor to Q&A with audience. Then the judges will announce the winning solution based on a set of criteria, such as understanding the problem they're trying to solve, the solution's unique competitive advantage, its ability to be replicated or scaled, as well as environmental and social impacts. And I do want to note that this is not a pitch competition in the traditional sense. There is no prize money. I am sorry, solution providers. I hope that's not news to you either. And all of these solutions have been chosen because they truly are incredible and we need them to scale up. So if you are an investor or a funder in the audience, please pay attention. And if there's ones you'd like to follow up with, please find them afterwards or find me and I can make sure that you get their contact information. The point of having this format is not only to learn about specific solutions, but also to lend a window into the minds of subject matter experts, funders, and other founders. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first presenter, Jeremy Kay. Give another whoop and a holler for Jeremy. So Jeremy is the co-founder of Spare Food Co. Previously at Patagonia, Jeremy was part of the team that created a new model for sustainable clothing and environmental stewardship. His subsequent roles leading global innovation initiatives for purpose-driven organizations from startups and foundations to Fortune 100s shaped Jeremy's conviction that transformational change happens when we connect big ideas to simple actions that shift awareness and inspire new behaviors. That's beautiful. It is the belief that drives this bold vision for a post-food waste world at the Spared Food Co. Let's give him a round of applause.
That's quite the intro. Who's got the timer going? Just kidding. Um, all right. Welcome, everybody. My name is Jeremy Kay, and I, as Sam said, am co-founder of the Spare Food Co., which I co-founded with my brother Adam. Thank you so much for this invitation to present Spare Food's unique approach to address on-farm loss and waste. At Spare Food, we use more of what we already grow and produce to help create a more regenerative and equitable food system. Let's get specific. We were asked to define the problem that our product solves. The truth is, the real problem in overcoming food waste and reversing climate change stems from so much more than on-farm loss. The real problem, if we truly have no time to waste, is continuing to solve only part of the problem. Our experience is that we tend to think within silos, but when we only solve a problem at one point in the food system, it's like aligning the colors on one side of the Rubik's Cube only. Rubik's Cube referenced twice in a day, I might note. The problem is ultimately not solved. We need to think and act differently. But how do we do this? We do this by looking at the whole system. Once we've made the effort to rescue all of this food from the farm, we also need to maximize its use and minimize loss at every point from farm to fork, in manufacturing and in the kitchen and at the table. The product we've created, Spare Starter, does exactly that. Spare Starter is a blend of 6 vegetables that would normally never leave the farm. This perfectly edible food that we purchase provides new revenue streams for farmers. We use these ingredients, we create a delicious pre-cooked vegetable base that can be used in limitless culinary applications. And ultimately what we're doing is providing a turnkey solution for food service and hospitality professionals to make their lives incredibly easier and help them meet their food waste and decarbonization goals. Why are we so focused on food service and hospitality? Well, as many of you know, about 50% of the meals that we eat annually are eaten outside of the home. Change at this scale is needed to incentivize participation and create the greatest impact. Let me break down our innovation at each point across the food system. Number 1, innovation at the farm. We figured out how to make it economically viable for farmers to harvest and sell their surplus. They can effectively co-harvest to reduce additional labor, sell more of each crop, and earn more revenue. Number 2 is innovation at the processing and manufacturing level. We've worked with our co-manufacturing partners to develop new SOPs to reduce trim waste and cook time and make the product shelf stable for 18 months. Number 3 is innovation in the kitchen. Here, Spare Starter addresses the 3 primary food service challenges. It reduces food waste, minimizes labor expense, and provides more plant-forward menu options easily. And finally, in dining, without having to always create new meals from scratch, Spare Starter allows chefs to be more responsive to diner preferences and reduces the need to overproduce up front. Our work with hundreds of culinary leaders revealed 3 areas that any innovation must address: drive culinary excellence, be economically viable, and have measurable impact. Our 100% sell-in success rate confirms that Spare Starter delivers on all 3. Speaking of impact, it doesn't take much to make a huge impact with Spare Starter. When we replace just 90 pounds, that's 5 units of Spare Starter of cooked vegetables in one dining location across all 2,700 colleges in the US, we create a market for more than 10,000 tons of farm surplus annually. And that's not accounting for the fact that each college has anywhere from 3 to 30 plus dining locations on a campus. And that's just the beginning. We've actually found a way to grow our impact exponentially. The number 1 way we've seen Spare Starter used is as a replacement for a percentage of animal protein in recipes. This helps drive more plant-forward menus and significantly lowers their carbon footprint. So it dawned on us, what if we replaced 30% of the beef in a burger with Spare Starter? Well, how's this for impact? Not only is the Spare burger far healthier, But we increase our impact from 10,000 tons annually to over 815,000 tons of farm surplus with just one product. That 30% reduction in beef on methane emissions and land use and everything else, that's a conversation for another time, but it's pretty incredible. So with Spare Starter and Spare Burger, we've identified a clear path to make full harvests a reality, but we certainly need the help of others. Don't know if there's any investors in the room. They all kind of skedaddled off the stage a little bit ago. But there are very limited funding options for for-profit benefit corporations in the early stages. We're not eligible for philanthropic dollars, and there's not a straight line to meet traditional VC metrics to account for the critical supply chain innovation that's at the heart of our solution. We seek investment partners to create a truly effective model to support companies like ours that are creating solutions for our future. To our friends in food service, I know you are in the room, new climate-friendly options solve some of your most pressing challenges, yet they're still measured against existing per meal costs or against the incumbent per unit price of a product. What if we work together to identify the true cost of business as usual in a changing world? What if we considered labor and packaging waste and hauling costs and the opportunity cost of not actually meeting your food waste and carbon neutrality targets? Please let's have the transparent, brave conversations about all the other ways these products actually save money so you can create and implement meaningful programs to support climate-friendly food solutions like Spare Starter. The long-term importance of this innovation is undeniable, and success really does depend on us all working together. I have no doubt that there are many in the room who are inspired to support and participate, and I cannot wait to have the conversations afterwards. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, we are going to do judge Q&A for, how long do we have? Five-ish minutes? Five-ish minutes.
All right. Well, thank you for that. I can feel the passion, and I love your big picture vision. My questions are about the product itself. So there's the Spare Burger, which is coming soon, which is a really neat idea. But can you tell us about the actual offering for food service and what response? I wasn't clear if you had sold some to date or if it's something you're working on.
The product launched in October after about 6 months of in-market testing and trial with a higher ed division of one of the 3 largest food service companies. It was through that learning that we really developed, refined the product over time actually, so that it could be more applicable across more different parts of their menu planning, day parts, meal types, flavor profiles, etc. So that's where we started, just with the value ingredient itself. What was amazing as we started rolling it out in Q4 of last year to more campuses, more corporate dining locations on the East Coast, was that the number one, about 60% of the use cases that we saw in person were replacing animal proteins, a portion of animal proteins to drive more plant-forward menus. The product has incredible umami. It's got this great roasted flavor, but it's still, I'll call it culinary agnostic. It works across multiple different flavor profiles, culinary traditions from around the world. But this solution as a way to drive more plant-forward menus with, especially on the college campus, fan favorites, burgers, meatballs, meatloaf, lasagnas, things like that, really started to have a massive impact on what they were doing in terms of driving plant-forward, reducing animal proteins, etc. And that's what got us thinking, well, hey, we can actually take more work out of it if we can develop a preformed burger. And that's where we went ahead just in the last 2 months, developed the burger as a standalone product, and are starting to sell it in right now for launch in August.
Great, thank you, Jeremy. This was great. My question is focused more, I would say, kind of on the potential for the farmer. And I think one of the slides you said, and I don't know if I interpreted it correctly, was that this can replace X percentage of vegetables that they're already using. Is there a potential to erode profits back at the farm by switching?
It's a really great question. If only we were that efficient in all of what we're selling at the moment, so that could be the truth. No, it actually ends up being that this is augmenting a lot of what they're doing, is what we're finding. I shared this a little bit with Dr. Lisa Johnson, who's standing back there, who really helped us with the very early research that got us going on all of this, with some grant funding actually from Kroger Zero Waste and Village Capital. We were part of cohort 2. And what we've found here, and the big unlock for us, is that the co-harvest can come because we are piggybacking on existing orders based on the supply chain that we've established. So we are not actually making a dent, as far as we can tell to date, in anything that is happening at the farm. This is all supplemental for the farmer, and it's being done in a way that is really cost effective for them, because that was the number one thing we heard again and again and again. You can't pay enough for us to go in and glean or to do a secondary harvest. To do this right, we have to be able to co-harvest.
Great. I think we have 1 minute.
We have time for one more question.
Oh. Do you have a last one?
No.
Yeah, my last question was focused on kind of the resilience, and I think it gets to your point around we aren't efficient enough anyway, but I was just wondering if you're in competition for that with anyone, or if you foresee yourself being in competition.
Not to date, and the reason is that we are not replacing an existing product with an upcycled version or a more sustainable version of it. We really have come in with a new product that is addressing food waste and loss at every step in the supply chain. So it's actually creating a new market and a new way of cooking that is directly related to minimizing food waste at the farm or loss at the farm, trim and scrap waste in the kitchen, cook time because of speed scratch, and then working with our processes has actually been one of the biggest revelations, where we're not coring the tomatoes or cutting the woody ends off of the zucchini. Our yields on cauliflower are, standard yield on cauliflower is 56%. We're buying 15 to 20% more of the plant, and our yields on cauliflower are 98% on average. So we are just creating a far more efficient and far less wasteful solution here. That I think what we're seeing from statements from our processes is we're starting to actually implement some of these innovations that you've got us thinking about for the first quality product and other product that's out there as well. So it's having this incredible knock-on effect.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all. Thanks so much, Tom.
Thank you, Jeremy. All right, we are going to move on to the next person. It is my pleasure to introduce, as soon as I find my place, which is taking longer than it should. All right, here we are. Forgive me. It's my pleasure to introduce Melissa Ackerman, the founder and CEO of Planet Harvest. Prior to launching Planet Harvest, Melissa served as the president of Produce Alliance, a leading national produce company specializing in consulting and purchasing of produce in the food service sector from field to fork. She also created the Produce Alliance Foundation, a philanthropic organization designed to be a first-line responder delivering necessary nutrition to emergency humanitarian situations, and serves on the advisory board of Freight Farms and Brighter Bites. Let's give it up for Melissa.
Thank you so much. And Jeremy, I love that, and I have so many contacts that I want to introduce you to, so very well done. 2 years ago, I sat at a dinner in San Francisco. There were 5 veteran produce men that had been in the industry for years, and we sat and talked about what we could do with excess produce that was left in the field. We know that 30 to 40% of produce, as it's quoted by many in this room, is left in the field because it does not hit the traditional specs of food service or retail. And we talked over this dinner about what we could do to move this product to places that wanted extra access and to increase consumption. I was definitely the bright-eyed person at that table with only 15 years of experience, but the reality is that one of the men said to me, "Your naivety might be what solves this problem." And I truly believed in that moment, and continue to believe today, that there is a solution to be able to do good and do business. And that is why I created the company called Planet Harvest. With my 15 years of experience, I had hundreds of distributors that I work with across the cold chain that did fresh produce distributions, and thousands of different growers that I had worked with. And many times I had walked through the fields with customers and they had said, what do you do with your excess product? And there were some growers, to be honest, such as carrot growers that had really great understanding of what they did with their product and how they moved it. But I really saw that over and over, there were not great answers to the questions I asked. So the goal of Planet Harvest became, how do we empower growers to sell, not till, excess and edible crops? What we do at Planet Harvest is create demand for excess produce. And by creating a fresh produce network for national distribution of excess produce using existing food service distributors, as well as new partners that are interested in solving this problem, we are able to move this product across the country in a very scalable way. So you might ask, how are we doing this? How are we building a network to distribute and boost the consumption of excess fresh produce? The way that we are doing it is by integrating excess produce in curated boxes for healthcare and insurance providers. For anyone who was in my talk in the moment before, we're doing a ton within the food as medicine space. We're working with different providers in insurance and in healthcare to be able to find holistic solutions to bring produce to these patients' doors by using a hub and spoke model with our distributors building the boxes with excess produce and then moving it through DoorDash and FedEx to the homes of these patients. We are partnering with online retailers for cost savings and accessibility. The goal of everything we are doing and talking about not cannibalizing the existing sales, we try to find ways of where we can increase consumption, and in retail, to be totally transparent, that has been difficult. But with online and different boxes and different ways to be able to tell the stories of the growers, we've been able to increase consumption and increase sales. We're also supplying excess produce to distributors within the network that I have known for years. These distributors are either selling it and using it with processors, or they're bringing it to educational institutions that are able to tell the stories of the growers and the excess that's on farm and why this product should be donated when available, but also purchased to be able to give a holistic solution that's a win-win for the grower and for the entire supply chain. And finally, we're selling excess produce to food banks and emergency feeding programs. Since the events that occurred in Hawaii last year, in Lahaina, we've been doing 500 boxes a month through different feeding programs to be able to get boxes of produce to the people that don't have access at the moment. In addition, we work with many food banks across the country, which I will show in my solution slide. So these are the numbers, in my opinion, to show that this solution works, and it's something that we can work to be able to increase the production of what is used in a whole harvest approach from our growers to the end users. We've done 75,000 produce boxes within the last year as Food is Medicine. We've rescued 27 million pounds of produce that we've been able to sell. We've worked with 47 different commodities. We've worked with 69 different food banks and emergency feeding programs and 64 growers. At the end of the day, it comes down to the fact that in my heart, I believe that doing business and doing good is something that we can all work to work at and to make this business move forward. I hope that I could work with some of you in this room to bring that forward. Thank you very much for your time.
This one's not working. Oh, now it's working, of course. Got me again. Thank you so much. We're going to move to Judge Q&A, and we have about 10 minutes, 6, 5, 8 minutes. 8 minutes for Judge Q&A.
Ooh, more questions, yay.
All right, thank you for that presentation. It was clear, it was passionate, and I can really see what you're doing, so I appreciate that. Can you distinguish between who is paying, like who the end user is and who the end customer is, and any kind of challenges that differentiation might have created?
Yes, right now we definitely have the approach of let's throw everything against the wall, and so 85% of our business right now is B2B. We're working with food banking systems that have a budget to be able to purchase. And so we call it's B2B2C is really the industry that we're working the most in right now. And then we are selling a bit to consumers, and that's happening through our online. We've worked with GoPuff in the past, and then we're launching a program with another big online retailer that would be more B2C. But at the end of the day, we're really working with our distributor network. So we're an asset-light company, and we have the distributors across the country that can really help us with building to get to our B2B2C customers.
Thank you.
And great presentation, and I agree there was a lot of passion, and I can also kind of empathize with that, having been in the space for a little bit. I was curious, kind of a little bit on that side around like the business side of it, and again, kind of who's paying, what are they paying in comparison to what they would normally be paying for what kind of pulls through, and then with the produce that's in the box, is it seconds? I think I just missed how it's different from what they would normally be purchasing.
Yeah. So the reality is that right now we need demand to increase. So where available, we're putting in the boxes, and I say seconds, but truly I believe it's a new category. It's the stuff that would otherwise have been put into the ground, tilled under, or thrown away. So working with World Wildlife Fund, which is also a partner, they have been able to have these different categories of, and refed as well, it's, marketable and edible, edible and not marketable, not edible and not marketable. And so it's this middle category that really doesn't have a home of where it can go that we're working to bring into the distributors' warehouses. And right now the customers that we are really all working with are those being the people purchasing it, and even in the insurance company side is we have these they're called the insurance companies are paying for it, and then they're going for free to the end user client customer. And so the only place where, and then the other thing is philanthropic. So everything I'm doing with University of Texas, we are doing a high-risk pregnancy test. We have flowers in our boxes too for mental health, which I think is amazing. I know that's not a topic, but those boxes are then being brought to the doorsteps, but that's philanthropic money. So we are scaling that into North Shore, and it's part of a White House commitment to try to get to 15 different cities within the next 3 years.
And then, sorry, on the cost difference between what the insurance company may have been purchasing versus kind of your box, is there a percentage difference there?
Yeah. Shocking, and I see farmers in this room, so I know that this is true. It costs just as much to get the excess produce out of the field as it does the product that is number one. So the price difference right now, we're working on what that is. It's definitely by commodity, it's by season, and it's by what's happening in the marketplace. And we're doing a lot right now on market buys versus contract buys, but we're working on how we can do it. So I wouldn't put a percentage out there to you. It definitely is less at the moment because we're getting it at that just in time versus we're working to be able to have a holistic approach. My dream would be to be in a grocery store one day and have organic, conventional, and climate-smart produce available, and it is changing based on what's available at the time. So we think about it as a local produce versus anything else.
Great, thank you.
I have time? Yeah, okay. Can you talk more about the incentives of the insurance companies that are buying this? Is it a nice to have or a need to have? And how do you move it if it's a nice to have to a must have? And then also if you could address, sometimes when we receive things for free, like a health club membership or something, real example, we don't use them. And how does that work if people are receiving this amazing fresh produce, but how do you ensure that it actually gets consumed?
So I will answer, but I will say I'm the supplier, and my partners on this with UT Health, Dr. Srila Sharma, and the Harris Health are definitely the ones that are working to make sure that what we're giving them is being eaten. We have talk groups with the different women that are receiving it in the program. There's a lot of education that goes with it. So and that's, I would say, how we know that people are eating it is because the education, there's a chat bot that they've come up with that we can literally put it in, and Brighter Bites is also the organization that's helping. So there's the education piece that goes with it. So yes, this is being received, but there is a community health worker that is calling, and along with text message surveys and other things that come during the different parts of the programs, we're able to see whether or not they're eating the produce. that is in that postpartum type and pre-pregnancy. In the health insurance companies, there is pilots going around the country to show that this is evidence-based, to show that if you're able to have this produce preventatively or in turn with what is happening with their medical care, that it is giving them better outcomes than just having the medication. And so I would say I am not the expert to speak on that, but I do believe that the produce that we are working with can be a solution to be able to get a cost-effective solution and increase consumption, and somewhere where those specs don't need to be #1 USDA grade or even #2, but something in the middle of where we think this produce can go.
We have time for one more judge question.
I don't have one more question, but I'm curious kind of what's the biggest barrier you're facing right now?
Entry into retail. I'm very mindful of the fact that I don't want to cut from the margins of the traditional product, but I'm working with a company right now on even just looking at stuff that is left in the field and what are different types of products that could be made that have never been there before, like vegetable fries and different things like that that could become healthy. So my definitely biggest barrier is like, how do we get this in retail to have the biggest scale overall? And how do we keep working within the pilots that we have that it gets out of the philanthropy dollars and into scalable dollars with government and insurance money?
Great, thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you, guys.
Warm welcome applause from Lisa. All right, we have one more presenter today, and so it is going to be my honor to also, there we go, introduce Alex Strube, formerly the Chief Marketing Officer at Imperfect Foods, and is a board member at Farm Drop. Alex is speaking on behalf of Hannah Semler, the co-founder and CEO of Farm Drop. Hannah is also a consultant for food rescue organizations nationally and has been a Jesse and Betsy Fink Family Foundation Fellow since 2018. When not working at Farm Drop, Hannah has been found in Tucson consulting for Nogales produce rescue efforts that rescued nearly 200 million pounds of fresh produce from going to waste, as well as working with New Mexico's Roadrunner Food Bank. Let's give Farm Drop a warm round of applause. Thanks for being here.
I need the power. Oh, do I get 2 microphones? Just one microphone. Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex. Last time I was on the stage at ReFed, it was for Imperfect, and so I am very honored to be here actually today on behalf of Farm Drop. At Farm Drop, we create solutions for small-scale farms to be able to reduce their on-farm food loss and waste. Currently, the food system paradigm that we experience is very reliant or overly reliant on large-scale, industrial, and oftentimes wasteful forms of production, and we're hoping to flip that paradigm. We're creating a paradigm shift by investing in our small-scale farms to create more resilient food systems that provide healthy and sustainable solutions for their communities. What's wild is that 1/3 of our global food production comes from small-scale farms, but they're often overlooked because they do not have the scale on their farms. And so that specifically happens within innovation, and particularly digital innovation, and it causes them to be really at risk of having on-farm food loss and waste be creating a non-viable solution for their farm. And so it affects farmer viability, which then also affects food insecurity in their communities. Farm Drop has been a startup for 10 years, which is an eternity in startup land, as someone who's been in startup land for a while. And you might have said, I've heard of online farmers markets, I've heard of Imperfect, I've heard of online markets, I've heard of farmers markets, I've heard of CSAs. And the thing that I want to be very clear about, what makes Farm Drop different than those, is that it is completely farmer-led, meaning they have control over everything in the process. They set their inventory. They determine what they want to bring to market. They determine how to list it. Do they have holy arugula this week? They sure do, and they're going to market it just that way. There's no seconds market with Farm Drop. They're able to list what they want to sell to their consumers, and they're also able to determine pricing. So every week there is about 30 pickup locations where consumers can order from these farmers on Farm Drop in Maine,
And they are able to then go and pick up these locations, the things that they have ordered, which also means that farmers are being paid in advance and they're only bringing to market what has already been ordered. So there's no loss happening at the market level. Like I said, we've been around for 10 years, so we've done a lot of work with these farmers, alongside these farmers. This business was actually started by farmers, and we've learned a lot along the way. And so while our online farmers market is the first tool, we are creating a suite of digital tools for our community. So another tool that we're building is a digital inventory management system to allow them to have real-time visibility into their product, such that they can plug into other direct-to-consumer businesses and know how much availability they have, so they can keep selling and create better market access for them. Because ultimately, this is the food waste challenge for us, is that they have very limited market access and limited supply chain tooling. And so the more we can create access for them, the better, which is why also the third tool we're building is small-scale producer wholesale, which allows them to plug into the restaurants and food service in their area to be able to sell their product directly, because right now that infrastructure and those systems do skew towards large-scale farms. But I'm going to actually shut up and stop talking about what the farmers are telling us, and I'm going to let you hear it directly from them.
I have a feeling that people are better nourished if there is some sort of community food system.
There's no way it exists without the community. A lot of our customers have also become our friends.
Farm Drop is streamlined, so even I, who am not a computer person, understands how it works. It's a platform that we can use. We can take our products and put on this platform, and it gets sent out to thousands of people.
We're finding that our costs have increased. We upped our production, but that convenience level has actually made it so that we're having fewer people coming down the driveway. Being able to have our products accessible to the community through Farm Drop is just a really great solution.
Cool. So as I mentioned, we're in Maine. Those are our farmers in our community in Maine. We only serve 3 of the 5 regions in Maine, so this year we hope to expand to all 5 regions. And we're also going beyond that. So currently we're talking to a few urban farms about creating a solution by using the Farm Drop online farmers marketplace for their communities. And as most of you know, urban farms are often also in places that have extreme food deserts. And so we're excited to create a solution there for them. We're also in talks with US-based food banks in order to use the online farmers market to plug into their farming community where they can list their surplus product and then be able to offer it to the folks facing food insecurity in their communities. And then lastly, I'm very excited to announce that we're also going to be partnering with a nonprofit to roll out the Farm Drop online farmers marketplace to about 4,000 farmers in Latin America, so that they can connect with their communities there and create a more resilient food system. Because as hopefully you've all gained knowledge in this presentation, that really a key to addressing on-farm food loss and waste is to raise up our small-scale farmers. Thank you. Really? I thought that was supposed to be like an 8-minute presentation. All right. Okay.
Thank you so much for that. And coming from an organization that is very customer, farmer focused, I really appreciated hearing from the farmers, because we don't often get that in a lot of conversations where we talk about farms and farmers. I was curious, so you said it's been a startup for 10 years, it's been difficult to scale. What have been some of those biggest barriers to kind of breaking out, I guess, of Maine?
Yeah, I feel like that almost was planted in the most amazing way. So thank you for asking that question, because truly it's funding. That's our biggest challenge. And actually one of the intentions that we're hoping to pursue this year is to take the online farmers market and convert that into a 501c3. Because as Jeremy mentioned earlier, a lot of these products don't have traditional venture returns. And so you can't get traditional venture funding, and we can't really get philanthropic funding either because it's not a tax write-off. And so we're hoping to start to spin out parts of our toolkit to be able to expand the reach of funding.
So my question is a follow-up on that, I would say. Could you talk about your business model and what you're doing is so important? And that is one way of ensuring that you're financially sustainable as well as environmentally sustainable. You're rolling out new products. Is one of these, do you see as a most profitable sector, or what do you see driving your business model as you move forward?
Yeah, I think, well, so the business model as it exists today, so we take a fee on both sides. We take a fee from the consumer who purchases, and then we take a fee from the farmer to help, as a service, as a platform. I think there's actually pretty strong viability within that financial architecture. The problem is that we've always lacked kind of the startup capital. So there's big tech debt that we're facing in order to get it to a steady state. And so I think the reality is that if we can jump that gap and get it to a place that is in more of a steady state, it'll allow us to be able to have the financial model be successful. We do feel strongly that I think the inventory management piece is probably one of the most profitable, you might say, avenues for us. Because currently those systems are quite expensive, and we could offer a more affordable solution that is made custom for our small-scale farmers. So there's a deep need there.
Thank you.
I'm curious if you can talk a little bit about your customer acquisition strategy. I know it's probably small right now, and then what the typical demographic is of your customer as well.
Yeah. So the regions that we currently serve, so much of it is word of mouth, and it's in market, at the little cork board at the local store. I mean, it's very grassroots. And our pickup locations are often hosted by nonprofits in those areas or community organizations, so they market on our behalf as well. And so the idea is that it becomes a flywheel. The more folks that we can bring on board, the better. The demographic of our customer base. So in the current areas of Maine that we serve, it's actually quite hard to get to the grocery store. And so it's much more rural community that we're serving. Maine is also vacation land. And so we have a lot of folks who come, especially in the summer, who are bi-coastal, have quite a bit of money, and they're willing to invest in their community. And so we have both kind of the rural community where maybe the income level is much lower, but then we have this influx of vacationers, which is an interesting dynamic.
Could you talk a little bit more about your expansion strategy? I'm picturing these little nodes and hubs, but distribution is never too far, or do I think of it as one farmer in Maine might ship to Georgia?
No, it'll always be within the local system. So it is, the chart is wild because it is so community driven that, you saw Abrams Creamery might be willing to pick up from Four Season Farm and bring it to the pickup location, and they might even be compensated for that. So they might even be paid by, Four Season Farm to be able to do that route for them. And so it's all this kind of interconnected network of these farmers helping each other out so that they don't all have to drive to every pickup location. And so that would absolutely have to be replicated in the market. There's no shipping or line hauls or the stuff that I'm used to from Imperfect. Yeah, none of that.
Thanks.
Kind of on a similar vein, you mentioned, I think, at the beginning of the presentation that so much of a percentage of our food comes from smallholders, and a lot of that is in, I would say, more of the middle, low-income countries, where there is a huge need for the food security part of this aspect as well. Could you talk a little bit about how you, identified Latin America, where you're working, and kind of how that came to be?
Yeah, there's an organization that came to us. We're not allowed to talk about it yet, but hopefully very soon we can mention them. But they came to us, and they serve those communities, and they've been looking for a solution like Farm Drop because they also struggle with food access and food security within those communities in Latin America. And so this was something that they had been talking about building on their own, and they found that it existed, and it was just kind of a perfect overlap of what they needed and what we had already piloted and rolled out.
I have a question about supply and demand. As this is a solution for farmers, it's, you're also creating a marketplace. What is the balance there? Do they still have excess, a surplus, or are they all done?
There's definitely still surplus. So, we are actively trying to boost demand. And it's not just through the online marketplace. Like, as we roll it out in the wholesale product as well, and the reality is, like, we have to create multiple channels. Because, like I mentioned, there's a lot of people coming seasonally for the summer, and so we see that bump. But Four Season Farm is a four-season farm. That's why they're called Four Season Farm. And so we need to make sure that we can create market access year-round for these folks. And so absolutely there is, unfortunately, always more supply than demand.
Thank you.
We have time for one final question from the judges.
You talked about the farmers, which, they spoke for themselves. Can you tell us about a customer? You live in Maine and know the people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the coolest thing that you heard was that they were saying that these people have become our friends. And I can't tell you that, we operate as a very small organization. There's probably only 10 people on staff and there's probably only like 2 people that are full-time, right? Like, we're tiny. And so what you're starting to see is that, but our entire network of people who contribute to Farm Drop is probably close to 50 people, because customers immediately reach out. They're like, how do I help? I used to be a copy editor for some big old agency in San Francisco, and I live in Maine in the summer. Can I do all of your PR? We're like, what? Yes. But I think that just willingness and interest in contributing to the community, they're voting with their dollars and with their time, and that, just building that kind of network and that fabric is something we're just very interested in doing across the US and now in Latin America.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. Okay, we are going to give the judges a little bit of a break, and we're going to turn this to audience Q&A. So if I can have all of the presenters come up on stage. And then do we have a mic runner? Amazing. Thanks.
Who's got a question? We take them all. Quick, long, intricate. All right, perfect. Right there.
Thank you. This question is for Alex. So I work with another program in the DMV area, Community Farm Share, and am actively looking for a way to do inventory with farmers. And I'm so excited about hearing what you're doing. And I think one of the things that I've heard from the farmers is, I don't have time for technology, as we hear for all technology. So what are some of the things that you're doing to help overcome and get them to adapt that technology?
See if it works.
Does this? Yes, it does. Okay. Yeah, totally. And I think you heard a little bit of that here of just I'm not a computer person, but I can figure it out. And I think that is the whole, that is the whole premise of this was built by farmers, right? It was built by people who said, I can actually use this. And the inventory management piece that we're looking into as a form of technology is, might there be a way, especially for product, is it a more kind of analog way that we could do inventory tracking? And so one thing we're looking at is this barcode system that we could then, it would be a very easy, a single scanner that they would have to use to get real-time inventory tracking. And we've gotten great feedback that could be a viable option, because anything more intricate than that, I don't think will really work, frankly. So that's one way we're approaching it right now. Yeah.
Awesome, that's great. Do we have a question for Melissa or Jeremy? Anyone in the crowd? Oh, perfect.
Hey, Jeremy, sorry if I missed this. I was wondering if you could unpack the co-harvesting model a little bit. I'm curious about that.
Sure. One of the biggest challenges we faced was being able to, and I know this is oxymoronic, but get consistent surplus in order to be able to create product at scale with co-manufacturing partners. We started out trying to work with individual farmers, with aggregators in different areas, and it just proved to be incredibly difficult and almost unsustainable to do so. At some point in the 2.5-year supply chain innovation work that we embarked upon, the unlock came from actually working with the veggie processors who already have relationships with all of the farmers. What they were able to do was identify proactively where there was going to be surplus. A great example is 2 women-owned farms in the south where the harvest had already moved north for peppers. These were peppers getting sunburned on the vines. We were able to, because of their logistics infrastructure, existing relationships, etc., commit to full harvest of those peppers and put them into all of our product in October and November last year. Another example of that, less kind of in the moment, is they're already purchasing tomatoes in season. They're purchasing cauliflower in season. They oftentimes don't have full truckloads of product because they've already got the relationships. They're asking the farmers to supplement, to co-harvest according to our specs, and supplement to get to a full truckload. So logistics efficiencies, less food miles, all of that other stuff as a happy accident, quite honestly, in certain cases with this stuff, but get product to us in that way. So it's this really interesting, almost, we've kind of like cut through the complexity and made it as simple as we can by using and leveraging and piggybacking on existing relationships. More revenue for everybody along the way. Win-win-win is super important to incentivize people to do so, and really important for us. Our product is consistent every production run that goes out to any one of our large food service customers.
Amazing. I think we have time for one final question while we wait for the judges to come back from deliberating.
Hi, my name's Carol. My question is for Planet Harvest. Since you're already boxing up all of your produce, have you considered doing a subscription model?
Yes. We're launching in the next few weeks. I can't remember if it's confidential, but on the biggest online retail that you will be able to buy, and you will buy a subscription. One thing I've worked on, and I love Jeff Bezos' approach of like just swing it as many bats as you can and you'll see what happens. And one of the things that we've done, and we're actually exhibiting next week at SHRM, it's like the big HR conference, because we're trying this wellness benefit box to be able to get to employees, for employers to either share the cost or to make it totally paid for by the employer. And so that is a subscription model we're also trying, but we haven't seen as much quick adoption to that because it's like who pays for it. The insurance companies want those type of results to happen so that there's less, especially self-insured companies and some of those cohorts, but that we're trying out different subscription models.
Whenever y'all are ready, I think.
Amazing. So everyone here is sworn to secrecy in case that was confidential. I'm checking to see if the judges have made a decision. We've got a decision. Okay, perfect. The judges are going to come up and announce the winner and give a little bit of info on why it is that they made the selection they did. Yeah, do you want to come up?
Great. Well, thank you all for the really engaging presentations. This was a lot of fun. I hope you had fun as well. It was a very tough, close decision, close race. They were all excellent. I think what kind of put us over the edge was the criteria that we had to discuss around scaling and kind of the customer, the uniqueness of the customer. So we decided on Planet Harvest. We really appreciated kind of your clear presentation. We think the value proposition of the insurance providers provides kind of a good, stable base that you could have with influxes for other opportunities. The unique customer, the tie to being food is medicine, we thought was also really unique. But as I mentioned, they were all great, and it was a really hard decision, which is why we were outside for so long. So thank you all.
Amazing. Congratulations, Planet Harvest, and thank you to all of our presenters, and also thank you to our judges. Let's have another round of applause for all of them. And I will do one final plug before turning everyone loose. We heard that funding is one of the main challenges of all of these organizations. So if you are a funder, if you have connections to funders, or if you have an idea for partnering, please come and talk to all these incredible folks. All right, with that, have fun. Enjoy Summit.
Thank you.